Airbnb is suspending hosts from the platform for doing this one thing. So if you're thinking about hosting on Airbnb, you need to watch this video so you know what not to do.
We are the Real Estate Robinsons.
Hey guys!
If this is your first time here, I'm Sarah.
I'm Tony.
And we're real estate investors who quit our day jobs by investing in short-term rentals, and we're here to show you how you can do the same.
So recently Airbnb updated their cancellation policy for hosts, and we wanted to share it with you guys so that way you understand, because it's a really big development. And if you don't follow this policy correctly, they will literally suspend your account.
Or charge you up to $1,000.
Yeah, so both of those are really bad situations. Yeah. So we want to make sure we update
or terminate your account, so.
It's a terminate
Yeah,
too?
That was one of them, yeah.
So very serious consequences, so let's kind of-
Pay attention.
Yeah, let's dive into what's happening here. So like we said, Airbnb updated their cancellation policy for hosts, which means like if you as the host have a reservation on your calendar and you cancel, not the guest, but you as the host, there are new consequences that Airbnb has put in place to obviously, deter hosts from canceling on guests. Yeah. Now, first, I think let's talk about like why Airbnb would even do this. Obviously, it's in Airbnb's best interest to make sure that if a paying guest books a property, plans an entire vacation, that they're able to go through and like make that vacation a reality. And honestly, it's been pretty lax for hosts. Like if you cancel, at most it was just like you would lose superhost status, but now they're trying to make it a little bit more stringent to really make it difficult for hosts to cancel.
Yeah, in this article, they explain the cancellation policy. It says, while cancellations by hosts are rare and some cancellations are beyond a host's control, certain cancellations by hosts can disrupt guests' plans and undermine confidence in our community. So for that reason, under certain circumstances, if the host cancels a confirmed stay reservation, or if the host is found to be responsible for cancellation under this policy, Airbnb may impose fees and other consequences. The fees and other consequences set out in this policy are intended to reflect the costs and other impacts of these cancellations on guests, the broader host community, and Airbnb. Very dramatic with the last two, they're talking about the guest, but whatever.
All right.
We will waive the fees and in some cases, the other consequences if the host cancels because of extenuating circumstances or certain valid reasons beyond the host's control.
Now, there's a couple of things to I think pull out of just that first paragraph. First is that it says, if the host is found to be responsible for the cancellation under this policy, right? So it says if the host cancels or if they're found to be responsible. So basically what that means is before, hosts could kind of sneak around the cancellation policy by just telling the guests like, hey, I need to cancel on you, but can you please do me a solid and you cancel this reservation? But now it looks like Airbnb is trying to find ways to kind of stop that behavior. So I thought that was super interesting to read.
I think it's super interesting that they're imposing fees and implementing consequences, not one or the other. They're like trying to really scare hosts by saying,
you're gonna get in trouble and you're gonna pay up.
You know, it's like, goddamn, okay, I don't wanna get in trouble and I really don't wanna pay up. So, we're gonna be extra careful.
All right, before we keep moving, we would really appreciate if you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, hit the little bell for notifications. We've got a goal to get to 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year, and every new subscriber does mean a lot to us. So if you're enjoying the content, please subscribe, please share, and turn on notifications. Also, connect with us on Instagram. I'm at Tony J. Robinson. My lovely wife is at Sarah Rad. And if you're on TikTok, you can follow us there at The Real Estate Robinsons.
We've also got a totally free download for all of our subscribers. So if you head over to alphageekcapital.com/calculator, we've put together a free tool that helps you analyze properties that Tony literally uses for our deals. So if you're considering purchasing a short-term rental, highly recommend you check it out. And we also have a short-term rental focused event. It's 3 days long in Newport Beach, California, happening on September 11th through the 13th. We have amazing speakers lined up, and we're gonna teach you guys how to buy, manage, and scale your very own short-term rental portfolio. So if you're interested, go to strsummit.com to buy your ticket.
And last, if you're not yet an Airbnb host, sign up using our link in the description. You'll get a small cash bonus for signing up, and we will get a small cash bonus for referring you. So let's talk about the fees first. Because I think that's like there's a big change around the fee structure. So what Airbnb now says, they say we will impose fees subject to a minimum cancellation fee of $50 $50 and a maximum cancellation fee of up to $1,000.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's a really high fee.
$50, I'm like, okay, whatever, not that big.
But $1,000?
Girl,
That's crazy.
that is like, what?
It says this fee is based on the reservation amount and when the reservation is canceled. So if the reservation is canceled 48 hours or less before the check-in or after the check-in, the fee is 50% of the reservation amount for the nights not stayed. If the reservation is canceled more than 48 hours and 30 days or less before the check-in, the fee is 25% of the reservation amount. And if the reservation is canceled more than 30 days before the check-in, the fee is 10% of the reservation amount. So like, I think what's really crazy is that Airbnb is saying is like, even if that reservation is 6 months out, if you as the host cancel on a guest, you're still gonna have to pay at least 10% of that reservation.
6 months out?
It says if it's more than 30 days.
More than 30 days? That's ridiculous.
Wow. Watch out, Dwight.
There should maybe like a third tier, like, you know, if it's more than 90 days out, you don't get charged, but, you know, because I think a guest would have enough time to rebook another stay, but that's one of the downsides of like relying on platforms like Airbnb and Vrbo, and why like direct booking might be a better option for some folks. But the fees are steep, right? Up to $1,000. And the article goes on to say that like if the reservation, like those percentages come out to be less than $50, it'll just up adjust to 50. And if those percentages work out to be more than $1,000, it'll just down adjust to $1,000. Minimum you're gonna pay $50. At max you're going to pay $1,000.
But think about, you know, people book holidays months in advance, right? Let's say it's April, someone booked for Christmas week, something awful happened to your property, maybe 2 months, you know, like let's say in June, you know, the property will not be ready for your renters in Christmas. So you have to cancel that, giving them way enough time to find another property, but you're still gonna get that $1,000 fine because your property is definitely gonna be, you know, on the higher end because of the holiday. So is that not stupid? That sucks, man.
I'm pissed.
So the article also goes on to say that you do move forward with the cancellation, Airbnb will actually block your calendar for those dates.
Oh, forgot about that.
Yeah, so it's like you...
So like with that scenario, imagine you had to, well, I mean, but then the property wouldn't have been rented anyways. I mean,
but it depends, right? Because they're like, so here's what some, and I'm sure this is probably what's driving this, is what some hosts would do is they would get a booking for $1 amount, realize they probably could have charged more, they'll cancel on a guest, let someone else come in and book it for a higher dollar.
That's shady though.
And it is.
We're not those kind of hosts.
I know, but I'm saying I'm sure that's why they're doing that. Right?
Well, then
because, yeah.
I agree with Airbnb then, because that's shady.
Yeah. So like in addition to them blocking your calendar, if you're found to be someone who like continuously cancels on guests, Airbnb says that they'll suspend your account or maybe even terminate your account from Airbnb altogether.
Yeah.
And that's scary. Right now, obviously, hopefully you shouldn't be canceling on guests like all that frequently,
right.
But sometimes things do happen that are out of your control. So we'll touch on a little bit about like the extenuating circumstances. But again, if there are those hosts that were just canceling for guests to try and get a higher dollar amount, or their properties just like really suck because there's always issues that like force you to cancel on guests, like you could literally get kicked off the platform. So it talks about like what happens when a host is actually found responsible for the cancellation. So I'm just gonna read off what it says here. Where this policy mentions a host being found responsible for cancellation, it refers to situations where conditions are grossly and materially different from how the listing was described at the time of booking. Examples may include double booking a listing, substituting another property for the listing booked by the guest, or gross listing inaccuracies that materially disrupt a guest stay, like advertising a pool when no pool is actually available for use by the guest. Yeah.
You know, one thing they haven't clarified, at least in my understanding with this article, is, you know, we have a ton of properties. Is it if you cancel amongst all of your properties, you know, or is it you get 3, you know, penalties per property?
Yeah.
We don't know, but I'd rather not risk it. But yeah, that happened to us like when we first set up Hospitable, right? There was like a glitch. Something else that happens that's out of our control, so maybe it would be under the extenuating circumstances category. But like, I feel like this month has been kind of hectic between our properties. Like,
oh no.
in one of our cabins in Tennessee, it's like super in the mountains, and there's just been a crazy like pest problem. Like there was like literally flying squirrels in our vents. We got that fixed. And then there's mice now inside. We figured out where they're coming from, and each time it's affected the guests, and we like have to move them or something. And then another cabin, what was wrong? Like the condensation pan from the AC on the lower level was broken and like pretty much flooded the downstairs like game bedroom bathroom area. And we had to cancel the next guest there. And what else? In Joshua Tree, one of our AC mini split units was leaking like from the wall that's on top of the bed onto the bed. It was over the weekend. HVAC companies closed on the weekend, so we had to move that couple that was staying for the next few days into another property, which they literally clearly listed here as
Something
moving
not
them.
to do.
Yeah, moving them to another property that they did not book. So just with these 3 situations, we would have met the max, you know? Yikes.
Possibly, but there are extenuating circumstances
That's true.
where they don't hold the host accountable. So let's talk about what some of those are. So like they go into list, Airbnb goes on to list a few things that can happen that will cause a cancellation where the host wouldn't be held accountable. So changes to government travel requirements. So we all know what's been going on with like the pandemic and things like that, and closing borders and doing things like that. So if you cancel because of that reason, like, you know,
You're
like
safe,
yeah, for example, like in San Bernardino County, I think at one point you couldn't accept people from outside of California.
Yeah.
So like if we saw that a guest was from, you know, Washington or Nevada, we could cancel on them without being in trouble. Another one is declared emergencies and epidemics. Obviously, COVID. There's another one, this government travel restriction. So
Kind of like what you touched on.
Yeah, what I already touched on. Another one is military actions and other like hostile actions. So I guess if we're like at war, which hopefully that never happens for
that's scary.
any of our properties.
It's a whole nother video.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't be making videos if that was happening. And the last one is natural disasters, which actually has happened to us a couple of times, where like there's been like wildfires in the Smoky Mountains, and like literally knocked out all the power for I think a couple of our cabins actually. Or like sometimes there's flooding in Joshua Tree.
Also the weather,
snow.
in Tennessee.
So things like that. But there's a lot of things that have happened to us that aren't
Dude,
necessarily.
I know that are not on this list.
Let's see what is not covered, and it literally says in bold, everything else. So it says this policy only allows for cancellations for the events described above. Everything else is excluded. Examples of situations that this policy does not allow cancellations for include unexpected disease, illness or injury, government obligations like jury duty, court appearances or military duties, travel advisories or other government guidance, cancellation or rescheduling of an event for which the reservation was made, and transportation disruptions unrelated to a covered event like road closures, as well as flight, train, bus, and ferry cancellations. If you cancel a reservation in these cases, the amount refunded will be determined by the cancellation policy that applies to the reservation.
So there's not a whole heck of a lot of things that are covered under this extenuating circumstance thing.
Pretty much nothing besides
Natural disasters and like COVID happening again.
Yeah.
So like everything we said, you know, what really happened with us recently, like we would have been in trouble. We would have had to pay or oh my gosh.
So it's good for hosts to know these things, right?
Yeah.
That way you know how to navigate and kind of deal with some of these issues. You can all like, so for example, the guest that where we had like the water issues with the game floor, we don't have to cancel, and we could offer the say to the guest, maybe offer them like some kind of refund or something.
Yeah.
So like, hey, we know that the property is not what it was supposed to be. Here's a refund to try and avoid any type of cancellation. So you're probably able to get a little creative with your communication with your guests to avoid any host-driven cancellations.
I mean, and I think we're good about just doing that in general, is just being super transparent with your guests. So like with the AC leaking in Joshua Tree, I already knew it was leaking. I didn't know it was that intense. Like our cleaners brought it to our attention, so we just had our cleaners like bring it a foot off of the wall so the leak was not dripping on the bed anymore. So everything was fine. The AC was still working. So instead of canceling on them and waiting to get it fixed, we just communicated with them like, hey, just want to give you a heads up. This is what's happening. You're still welcome to use the AC, but we just want to let you know. And I mean, they're understanding.
fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But not everybody will be, you know? Some people will be like, I didn't sign up for this. I need fully refund, or yeah, maybe they'll cancel. I don't know, but then we'll get in trouble if they cancel. That's confusing.
Hey, so we hope you guys got some value out of this video. Again, like we don't want anybody to get banned, and this seems like a surefire way to do that. So we got, you know, we hope you guys got some good stuff.
Just sounding the alarms, you know, bringing everyone up to speed.
Yeah. So if you guys have any other questions, just drop them below. We'll do our best to answer them. But that's it for today.
I'm Sarah.
I'm Tony.
And we are the Real Estate Robinsons.